Formula E, and NHRA racing talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And the gang is all here this weekend, as opposed to the last 2 weekends where Matt has been on location. We'll get all the details of that coming up, and quite frankly, with more visual aids than producer John can shake a stick at, we get into the latest edition of CRN. Major penalties coming out of the Cup Series. We've also got a new team joining the Craftsman Truck Series. Formula E team celebrating a milestone. Haas F1's team principal gets to talking two things this week that we're going to deal with. First of all, rumors. We'll let you know what those rumors are. Plus, he's talking about Formula One needing to make a big change that would affect not just Haas F1, but all the other teams as well. We're going to look back on all the details from the Indy 500. We're going to talk tire damage from one car in particular. We got all that and a whole lot more coming up on this weekend's edition, the first of the month of June. We'll get started next on the CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Indeed, we are back. Welcome back into the show. Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, in studio after 2 weekends of being in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm pretty happy to be off the road, aren't you?
Can you believe it?
A little bit, yeah.
I understand. And producer John Myers there, who is busy trying to get everything set up in the background. We appreciate all of his hard efforts. He's got, 15 minutes or so. Let's see. We noted on the show last week talked about the Craftsman Truck Series because they ran on Friday night last weekend, but we didn't get to the updated points, so let's go ahead and get into that. Updated standings, 6 of the 10 playoff spots now spoken for, led by your 2-time race winners, Zane Smith and Christian Eckes. Single-time race winners, Corey Heim, more on him in a bit. Grant Enfinger, Ben Rhodes, Carson Hocevar. Ty Majeski is leading the points, followed by Matt Kraft and Tanner Gray and Matt DiBenedetto. Matt DiBenedetto in by the slimmest of 1-point margin over Stuart Friesen for that 10th and final playoff slot. And then things kind of got messed up.
AWOL.
Yeah. Saturday belonged to, more to the point, Saturday was supposed to belong to the Xfinity Series at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Really, it belonged to the rain. Postponed the race until Sunday. Or so they said. Sunday began, however, actually in Monaco. Greatest day in racing, arguably, for Formula One. Speaking of rain, didn't rain all day, but they did have a shower that popped up during the second half of the race. Monaco kind of has turned into a single pit stop race. And as the time approached for those pit stops, the rains began to fall. It caused chaos. Several of the drivers tagged the wall of this narrow city street course and prompted a lot of pit road activity. Max Verstappen, who started on the pole, kept the lead off the standing start over Fernando Alonso, who had started second. Well, Max came down, initially took on, I take that back. Fernando came down. He initially took on medium tires, but he had to come back down and put on intermediate rain tires. Verstappen's team saw what was coming. They made the single change. They went immediately to the intermediate rain tires that saved them time, and it gave him all the edge he was going to need, and predictably he got the win. Again. Fernando Alonso in second, trailed by Esteban Ocon, Sir Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri in the top 10. So what we can say is this. Red Bull did not, in this case, sweep 2 of the 3 podium slots.
They are human after all.
Who figured, huh? That leaves us with Verstappen's lead now 144 points to 105 over his teammate Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso has 93 and is closing in quickly. Sir Lewis Hamilton has 69, now beating his teammate, George Russell, who has 50. 48 for Carlos Sainz, 42 for Charles Leclerc, 27 for Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon 21, Pierre Gasly jumps up there. He's got 14, sitting in 10th. Red Bull continues to build upon their already all but insurmountable Constructors' Cup lead. It is now 249 to 120 over Aston Martin. And we've run 6 or 7 races.
I think 6.
And we've got 22 on the season.
Yep, game over.
Yeah. There will be a little bit of a battle here. Aston Martin, as we noted, 120. Mercedes has jumped up to 119. So it looks like the battle for second is on. Ferrari is starting to fade a little bit. They've got 90, but they may have fourth all to themselves because Alpine is next. They've only got 35. 17 for McLaren. Haas F1 has 8. Alfa Romeo 6. 2 for AlphaTauri. Williams holds 1 single point on the year. Next up, back here in the States, they had the 107th running of the Indy 500. Some drivers wait all their lives for a chance to get the biggest race of their series, and some actually, they never get it. And after a decade of trying, some begin to question if it ever will happen. I mean, think about, for example, Darrell Waltrip had to wait 17 years to get a Daytona 500. Dale Earnhardt had to wait 20 years to get a Daytona 500. And as you got more and more years into it, both of those drivers began to question, will I ever actually be able to win this race?
Oh, it does happen.
And there are several drivers, using the Cup Series example, who never won a Daytona 500. Tony Stewart is one that immediately comes to mind.
Tony Stewart, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin.
Yeah. So
guys like that.
Indy 500 is along those same lines. It's one of those races that every single driver that has ever even thought about getting into the IndyCar series wants to win. Chances are, you may not. 2 late race wrecks were able to actually allow 2-time champion Joseph Newgarden to get those questions over, thanks to a kind of an odd decision. Again, 2 late race wrecks bringing out 2 late red flags. The second one, 3 laps to go. IndyCar made a quick decision. They brought the cars down pit road, and they crossed the start-finish line on pit road showing 2 laps to go. Now, here's the problem. Unlike NASCAR, which has the green, white, checkered finish, which means you can go into overtime, the Indy 500 is just that. It is the Indy 500. It don't go over. It will end on lap 200, 500 miles.
Yep.
Period. When they got the crash cleared, Marcus Ericsson was leading Joseph Newgarden down the back straight, and when they were turned loose in a one-lap shootout initially, looked like Ericsson was going to be able to claim 2 in a row when he was able to pull initially away from Joseph Newgarden. But then the 2-time champion of the series rallied, got a run coming off of turn 2, past Ericsson going down the back straight, was able to hold off a last attempt by Ericsson to reclaim point position coming off of turn 4. And now, after a dozen years, the 2-time champion also has his Indy 500 win. Said after going into the grandstands to celebrate with the fans, that was a different kind of celebration, by the way. Quote, everyone just keeps asking me why I haven't won this race. They looked at you like you're a failure if you don't win it. I wanted to win it so bad. I knew we could. I knew we were capable. It's a huge team effort, as everybody knows. I'm so glad to be here. Anybody who says that Joseph Newgarden, again, a 2-time IndyCar Series champion, could not win the big race, they just don't understand. He's fighting against 32 other cars each and every time he's getting into an Indy 500. And let's face it, every single one of the 33 cars that begins that race is bringing their best effort.
Yeah, it's 32 other strong competitors, and it's not a pushover.
No,
by no means.
Not at all. So Marcus Ericsson settles for a disappointing second place. Third place went to an elated Santino Ferrucci, who was driving the number 14 for AJ Foyt Racing. Why was he so elated for third? It's the best finish for AJ Foyt Racing since the year 2000, back when Eliseo Salazar, anybody remember that name, finished third for the team that year. Your pole sitter, Alex Palou, faded back to fourth, trailed by Alexander Rossi, then Scott Dixon. Speaking of which, Scott Dixon I don't think has won an Indy 500, has he?
Yes.
Has he? Okay, he's won one. I take that back. You're right. Takuma Sato, who's got 2. Connor Daly, Colton Herter, Rinus VeeKay sitting in the top 10. Alex Palou's your points leader in the series, 219. Marcus Ericsson's got 199. Pato Award, 185 with the win. Joseph Newgarden jumps up into the top 5. He's got 182. Rounding out the top 5, Scott Dixon, 162. Then you got the rest of the top 10, Scott McLaughlin, Alexander Rossi, Romain Grosjean, Will Power, Colton Herta. Herta holds 130 points, so 32 points between 5th and 10th. Pretty tight running there. NASCAR then decided that they wanted to run a doubleheader on Sunday in Charlotte, but the rain just wouldn't go away. So Sunday's doubleheader turned into Monday's doubleheader. Memorial Day here in the United States. And even though the rain had stopped, there was some fog. There was still some mist hanging around. You were up there. What did you deal with while you were there?
The mist and the weather did not let up until Sunday night at 11:30.
And it was still, like I said, it was still messing things up.
The reason I know that is because the fire alarm in our hotel went off and we had to go stand in the street.
That's fantastic.
While the fire department checked the hotel out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I got you. So anyway, they got the Xfinity Series race started, but they had to stop things twice because of that weird little bit of weather. And then they had to stop it a third time because NASCAR decided, you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to get the Coca-Cola 600 in, and then we'll resume the Xfinity Series race. Okay. So they actually get in the longest race on the schedule and bringing it into a 59-race winless streak. It's always a good thing, but to Ryan Blaney, it seemed like it took forever. Blaney was able to hold off challenges from Cup Series champions and challengers alike to claim the win, to which he said, quote, I might shed a tear. This has been a cool weekend. Obviously, Memorial Day weekend means a lot. Growing up here, watching Dad run this race for a long time, it's so cool to be a part of it, let alone win it. With the win, he ticks off another crown jewel race and officially claims a playoff spot. William Byron had tried to close, but he couldn't really rally it up and make it work. Finishes second, trailed by Martin Truex Jr. Great run for Bubba Wallace there. Tyler Reddick in there. Kyle Busch. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. continues from the Daytona 500, where he won, into really having a very, very good year. Chris Buescher in there along with Austin Dillon, and then Zane Smith running for Front Row Motorsports. He gets a somewhat surprising top 10.
Yeah, he was quietly around there most of the end of the race.
10 of the 16 playoff spots now spoken for by three-time winner William Byron. Your two-time winners are Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson. Ryan Blaney now jumps to the lead of the single-time winners in seed order, along with Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and who would have thought that the defending series champion Joey Logano, while, yes, granted, he is in the playoffs, would be the lowest seed amongst the single-win drivers?
That'll change.
I'm sure it will. Those in on points, getting fewer, led by Ross Chastain. Then you got Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Alex Bowman back in on points, edging out Chase Briscoe, who was 4 points under the playoff cutoff line. Why do I say was? We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Then finally, the Xfinity Series got the chance to restart and finish their race, gamble paying off at the end for the winner. Junior Motorsports decided to try to go for a long 66-lap run for Justin Allgaier to see if they couldn't change their fortunes, claim their first win at Charlotte. Average run at Charlotte for the Xfinity Series? I want to say 55 to 60 laps?
Roughly, yeah.
Or is it 50 to 55?
Something 50, between 50 and 60.
So they were pushing it.
Yeah.
Not horribly, but they were pushing it. It paid off. Allgaier saving fuel wherever he could, got the win by almost 8 seconds over two other drivers who tried to do the exact same gamble. You had John Hunter Nemechek, and then there's Chase. I'm sorry, that's not Chase Briscoe. That was Cole Custer.
Yeah.
Finishing second and third. Austin Hill, who was leading at the break for the 600, could do no better than fourth, trailed by Moonlighter Ty Gibbs. Parker Retzlaff, and by the way, a lot of racing that day for Ty Gibbs. He ran, I think he ran all 1100. No, he didn't.
No.
He didn't finish the
Justin Haley beat him by 1 lap.
Yeah, there you go. Parker Retzlaff, Jeb Burton, Carson Hocevar in there, along with Brandon Jones and Sammy Smith on the top 10. Austin Hill is still your one seed in the playoffs. He's got 3 wins. John Hunter Nemechek has 2. Now with 6 playoff slots locked up, you got single-time winners, including Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton. Those in on points are led by the aforementioned Cole Custer, then Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, Riley Erbst, Daniel Hemrick, and Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer holding 12th by 20 points over Brandon Jones for that final playoff spot. So for this weekend, racing has actually already begun. I have to admit, I haven't looked this up. Jakarta E-Prix over in Indonesia as racing returns to that island nation there. Let's see what we can do.
That's what I'm pulling up right here.
Yeah, Pascal Wehrlein comes back, and he actually claims a win. So Pascal Wehrlein with a win. Hey, what do you know? Congratulations to Pascal. Mm-hmm. Now, there's another race tomorrow, so we're not going to worry about points. So we're just going to run down the top 10 here. There we go. Jake Dennis finishes second. So Porsche wins. Avalanche Andretti is second. And then the Maserati. Hey, what do you know? Of Max Gunther finishes third. Stoffel Van Dorn and John-Eric Verne and a couple of DS Penske's finishing fourth and fifth. Eduardo Mortara, second Maserati entry. He's sixth. Envision Racing for Nick Cassidy in seventh. Antonio Felix DaCasa in the other Porsche finishes eighth. Hey, a rare spot for the ABT Cooper Formula E team in ninth. Robin Frines behind the wheel of that car. And Neil McLaren claims 10th with driver Jake Hughes. Again, with another race coming up tomorrow morning, which we will detail next week here on the show. We'll let you know what the points are next week. As for the rest of the schedule this weekend, Craftsman Truck Series going to St. Louis to run a very hot Toyota 200 at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. It'll air on Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio. Starts 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Central Time. The Xfinity Series will then get into action. They're going much further out west, all the way to Portland, Oregon, specifically to run the Pacific Office Automation 147. It's a road course number if I ever heard it. 12 turns, 1.967 mile long road course, same one that the IndyCar Series will run later on this year. Again, Fox Sports 1, MRN Radio, this time 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. As we noted, there will be a second race of a doubleheader weekend for Formula E. Race number 2 of the Jakarta E-Prix is going to happen on Sunday morning, rolling live at 4 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Central Time on the CBS Sports Network. If you miss it and you do want to see it, they will replay it later on in the afternoon at a time when most people are actually awake. Then you got Formula One. They're going to get rolling in the AWS Grand Prix of Spain on the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. 14 turns, 2.8-mile long road course. Airs on ESPN on Sunday morning beginning just before 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. You know, kind of normal hours. IndyCar up next. They're going to run the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix. This is that downtown street course. They're not running on Belle Isle anymore. Remember that. This one is 10 turns over 1.7 miles. Relatively short course.
Yeah.
NBC and IRN Radio have the schedule, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. That is, by the way, at the same exact time that the Cup Series is going to get things rolling in the Enjoy Illinois 300 presented by Ticketmaster. It's at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. It is actually not in St. Louis. It's across that Mississippi River from St. Louis, technically in Madison, Illinois, but I don't know. As the crow flies, what, less than 5 miles away from the Arch, I think?
Yeah, it's tight.
Yeah, it's close. Fox Sports 1. Fox is going to be airing, if I remember correctly, a doubleheader of USL football. So Fox Sports 1 and MRN Radio beginning 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. And then, finally, Fox Sports 1 will show a delayed airing of the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series, the New England Nationals, New England Dragway, Epping, New Hampshire. It will air beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time, or following the Cup Series coverage. And those are all the series that we cover that are in season at this time. The only series that we cover on a regular basis that isn't running is actually out of season, and that's the Superstar Racing Experience. By the way, the finals live will actually happen about 11 a.m. Central Time for the NHRA.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we're going to have a busy recap coming up next weekend is what we're telling you. All right, so the racing recap and the schedule for this weekend complete, at least of the series that we cover. I'm sure Athena will add more in.
Oh, yeah.
If you're on YouTube. And if you're
lot.
not, go to CRN Live on YouTube, and you can check out all that stuff. Meantime, we got plenty of news to get to. 2 big penalties from NASCAR lead us off next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. more action on the Championship Racing Network.
We had some interesting things happen last weekend. There's no doubt about it. Let's start off with the Cup Series because they came down pretty hard on not just one, but two different teams / drivers. And we'll start off with during the Coca-Cola 600. There was a crash, which you will see momentarily, at least a still shot of, on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of topimage.com. This crash between Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott occurred, and it's resulting in serious penalties. Chase Elliott, who has already missed 6 weeks this year due to a broken leg sustained in a snowboarding accident during the West Coast Swing, is set to miss another race. He's been suspended for this weekend by NASCAR since the fine folks deemed that this wreck that you see at the beginning of right here was deliberate on the part of Chase Elliott. Hendrick Motorsports said they're not going to appeal the decision. They said in a statement, quote, "We understand NASCAR's need to maintain consistency in its officiating." That statement refers back to the one race suspension that Bubba Wallace was handed down. It was determined to have deliberately crashed Kyle Larson at Las Vegas when he hooked him and turned him into the fence, kind of like what you're seeing the beginnings of right there between Elliott and Hamlin. Elliott, I get it. He's the, 5-time defending most popular driver in the Cup Series? Or is it 6? We need a microphone for Matt, John.
I think it's 5 or 6.
Okay. Either way, let's face it. I mean, we saw this coming. We saw him inheriting the most popular driver award right after Dale Earnhardt Jr. retired. Mm-hmm. But this move right here, I'm not saying it's going to hurt his popularity, but for him to come out afterward and say that he had tagged the wall and it caused a problem.
Is you sure about that?
Uh-huh. Well, that'll bring up our next little bit here because, like I said, Elliott, at least at the beginning part of it, denied deliberately hooking Hamlin by turning into him, causing the 11 car to spin into the outside wall. Hamlin, on the other hand, countered with some data that he posted on his social media that you'll find on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Hamlin's Twitter account, showing the steering wheel angle, shows Elliott turned that car hard left into him and then was able to straighten the wheel back out, which would appear to show intent as opposed to, hey, I slammed the wall and my toe link was out and I couldn't avoid him. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Some people have seen this telemetry data that you see here on the picture right here, but for those who don't understand it, and those who are watching on CRN Live on YouTube, those who aren't, you can. It's free. Just telling you, go onto YouTube, check out CRN Live, and if you haven't, subscribe. And if you have subscribed, thank you first, and second, tell a friend and have them do it. Kind of explain what we're looking at.
I was
here.
able to, when I made the trip up to Bristol, I was able to watch this stuff right here live on a computer and see exactly what it's all about. As you see on the left-hand side of the photo there, the yellow line on the track diagram shows Denny Hamlin. Mm-hmm. The blue line is Chase Elliott. Mm-hmm. All right. The yellow line and blue line on the graphs coordinate with their each respective car's data with the mile per hour, the throttle tracing, the brake tracing, the steering, and the delta time overall. Which delta time is nothing but lap time. That's all that is. All right. Take a look real close at that steering. You see that it goes from -10 up to a positive 150.
Ouch.
At the point of contact, he just got it. He just has it as a freeze frame right there. But at the point of contact, you see that first line where it spikes up to above 110 to roughly about 130.
Yep.
And then it goes back down to -10.
He's sawing on the wheel.
That's a right hook. That's a straight right hook.
That data would kind of lend one to believe that, yeah, he did it on purpose. And is Denny Hamlin a magnet for this? I mean, last year it seemed like he and Ross Chastain were in each other all the time, and now all of a sudden this year he's got a problem, not with Chastain, but as it turns out, Chase Elliott.
I don't know, but that steering trace right there shows that there was no steering problem with the car, because if it was a steering problem with the car, it would be pegged one way or the other.
Yeah. And
to a
it's
certain degree, and it's not. It went back down to -10, which is essentially 0. So, yeah.
So Chase Elliott gets his 7th week off during the regular season here, and that means that Hendrick Motorsports needs a replacement driver for the 9 car. And if you remember the schedule for this weekend, Xfinity Series being in Portland, it ain't going to be Josh Berry. So the Cup Series being in the St. Louis area, along with the Craftsman Truck Series, they cut a deal with fellow Chevrolet team Spire Motorsports. Corey LaJoie, who had mentioned to Rick Hendrick a few years ago that if he had an opening, he would be interested in at least talking to Rick Hendrick about it. Well, that didn't quite pan out, obviously, with a regular drive, but turned out that Spire was willing to let Corey LaJoie move from the 7 car, which he regularly drives, to take on the 9 car. And he's been pretty good in the 7 car. Now he gets arguably better equipment.
There's no question, arguably.
I mean, is this the best car that Corey LaJoie will have ever had?
Yes.
Okay.
By far.
It'll be fun to watch to see what he does. Spire, meanwhile, needing a replacement driver themselves, tapped into the Craftsman Truck Series regular Carson Hocevar. He's run several Xfinity Series races this year. He will now get his first chance to drive a Cup car. He'll run the 7 car tomorrow in place of Corey LaJoie. The picture that you see of Carson Hocevar right there came from jski.com, and we thank them very much for allowing us to borrow it from them. So that's one penalty, which, again, Chase Elliott sits out. Corey LaJoie drives directly for Chase Elliott, and Carson Hocevar comes in, and he picks up the slack over at Spire Motorsports. The other major penalty this week was levied at Stewart-Haas Racing for the car that you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube, and this is the most severe penalty you can hand down. It's an L3 penalty. NASCAR saying the team used this is their word, not mine, counterfeit part on the number 14 driven by Chase Briscoe on that car that you see right there at Charlotte. The penalty is stiff. 120 owner points, 120 driver points are docked, plus Chase Briscoe, should he actually work his way into the playoffs, he will start with a 25-point deficit. And from what I understand, now this is me hearing it from Larry McReynolds. So if Larry's wrong, then I'll be more than happy to be wrong, because I will trust generally anything that Larry McReynolds says.
Right.
He will not only start the playoffs with a 25-point deficit, should he make it to round number 2, he would again be hit with a 25-point deficit.
Correct.
Should he be able to overcome that and go to round 3, another 25-point deficit?
Yes, a round-by-round basis.
Ouch. They are behind an 8-ball huge. And on top of that, $250,000 fine and a 6-race suspension for crew chief Johnny Klausmeyer. Again, you can see the car there, courtesy of TobyChristie.com on CRN Live on YouTube. The rule cited was in Section 14.1F. It details a single-sourced vendor-supplied part, and then they also referenced 14.6A, referencing the underwing, 14.6.3B, the engine panel assembly. This is where they're specifically going. The engine panel assembly notes that the engine panel has a NACA duct. It must be used. It must remain unobstructed. And they're on the left and kind of on the left and right windows, but also on the underside of the pan. It's all really to kind of do 2 things: to help keep the engine cool, to run more air through that area, and that will help keep the driver cool, because we noted last year without this that it made the cabin real hot for the drivers.
It did. And
here's the thing. Stewart-Haas Racing didn't try to make any kind of an excuse. They admitted they were at fault. They put out a statement, read in part, quote, "We had a quality control lapse in a part that never should have been on a car going to the racetrack, and it ended up being on the 14 car at Charlotte. We accept NASCAR's decision. We will not appeal." In other words, they mocked up a part. We'll say, I don't have inside information, but let's say they mocked up a part using a 3D printer, basically as a placeholder. And from what I heard, they not only mocked up the part in as exact a detail as they could, they even included a part number on it. Which, if you did a quick glance on that, you'd go, hey, it's got the proper part number on it, so you might be tempted to leave it. But NASCAR understands that there is a difference between the part that gets mocked up and the one that's sent from the single source supplier, and they found it, and they nailed them.
The material. It was the material of it. And
got to be a checklist. Got to be a checklist on this stuff.
Pretty much that's an admission of Hey, we tried to slip one through, but we got Drew for a random inspection,
Yep.
and we goofed up.
Yep. Stewart Haas Racing has said, wisely, they will not appeal the ruling. This will drop Briscoe, who we said during the recap was sitting in 17th at points before the penalty was handed down and sitting 4 points out, and now drops to 124 points out and drops him to 31st in the standings. And that puts now Ty Gibbs into the position of inheriting the first spot outside of the playoffs, 17th. He is now 15 points out.
So we can basically say that his chance at the championship is poof, gone.
Pretty much up in, pardon the pun, smoke. Briscoe, however, will soldier on as the driver of the 14. He is not suspended, as is his crew chief, Johnny Klausmeier. Stewart Haas Racing, though, has a pretty good guy coming off the bench, the team's performance director, and a guy who just, last year, I think it was a crew chief in the organization, Mike Bugaravich. He's got 214 starts as a crew chief, most recently with Eric Almirola on the 10 car. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, not a bad guy to be able to pull off the bench.
No.
Meantime, St. Louis area seems to have more than embraced NASCAR's Cup Series finally coming to the area. We've seen Xfinity there. We've seen the Truck Series there for a while. But the Cup Series coming there just happened for the first time last year. This is only the second year the Cup Series going to Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. And for the second year in a row, the Cup Series race is a total sellout. All 57,000 grandstand seats, over 1,200 campsites, and all the hospitality suites are full as well. And the track believes that it will happen again next year as well. And I'll be honest with you, I got no reason to disbelieve that at all.
Yeah.
Rick Ware Racing continues their revolving door of drivers in the number 15 Ford Mustang this weekend at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. They're going to bring in this guy who you're about to see on CRN Live on YouTube. Bringing back, I guess I should actually say, Greg Galding to drive for sponsor, the one that he's wearing on that fire suit, Panini America NFT. It's a, by the way, NASCAR collectibles company. The 25-year-old Galding has not a whole lot of experience in the Cup Series. 11 starts with Rick Ware Racing out of his 60 times driving a Cup Series entry. The picture you see there, courtesy of jski.com. This is Rick Ware Racing, with all due respect. It doesn't really matter to me how impressive Greg Galding is. It's Rick Ware Racing.
It's Rick Ware, people.
So we'll
Sorry.
just leave it at that.
Yeah.
RWR.
Yeah. When was the last time we saw Rick Ware Racing really being competitive on a regular basis? Oh, that's right.
Never.
Bingo. Despite being postponed to Monday and being shunted not only off of Fox to Fox Sports, no, not one, Fox Sports 2, total number of viewers checking out the Coca-Cola 600 on Monday, 3.399 million people. That was only down about 500,000 from the 2022 race, which aired on time, on its regularly scheduled day, Sunday evening, and on Fox. Not bad.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good right
for
there.
Sure.
Turning our attention to the Xfinity Series here, and a pretty neat little bit of information. Couple of sponsorships. Title sponsorships for races, to be specific. The Saturday, August 5th race of Michigan International Speedway got themselves a title sponsor, Cabo Wabo Tequila. Those naming rights and also include, by the way, the Turn 4 Club, now presented by Cabo Wabo Tequila.
Not Cabo Wabo.
True. This is the latest tie-in between NASCAR and the brand, following them being named the official tequila of NASCAR, who knew, and the official tequila of Michigan International Speedway earlier this year. The brand started by former Van Halen lead singer Sammy Hagar, who still owns the brand, and the bar and grill locations of the exact same name. You can see the logo for the race courtesy of TireBall.com on CRN Live on YouTube.
Not started by David Lee Roth, and it's not Cabo Wabo.
No, it's not.
Oh, my gosh.
Considering this said person's on the
let's
other
just
side of the
say
country, I will fire every shot I can fire.
We actually heard this
Live. In person.
My jaw hit the floor when I heard him say that.
Well, yeah. Considering this person's on the other side of the country, I will fire every shot that I can fire.
Cabo Wabo.
I don't care whether he's in the room next door.
I wouldn't care if he's in the room next door either, but ending on that note, roll tide, baby.
Yeah, exactly. August 19th, road course at Watkins Glen got themselves a new title sponsor as well. It's the Shriners Children's 200 at the Glen. Shriners Hospitals for Children has long been a partner with NASCAR. A NASCAR Foundation has certainly helped them out a lot. This helps continue that relationship. This will be the second time, by the way, in 2 years that they've come on board, not only as a title sponsor, but as an overall sponsor for NASCAR in an Xfinity Series race. They sponsored the 2022 spring weekend at Darlington. It was everything presented by Shriners Children's Hospital. And then this year they had the title sponsorship rights for the spring race on Throwback Weekend at Darlington. So this is actually the second race this year that they will be title sponsoring. And with those road course races coming up on the summer schedule, road course ringers starting to pop up, or at least drivers deemed a little better than others on road course racing. SS Greenlight Racing has announced they're going to put this guy right here, as you see on CRN Live on YouTube, Preston Pardis, into the 08 Ford Mustang. Sponsorship from B2B Casuals at Portland International Raceway. Does this move the needle for you at all?
It moves the needle for the car.
Okay.
He's a good little road course racer.
All right.
He'll be top 15.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then there's this guy, as we get ready to head to a break right afterwards. Dylan Lupton gets added to the list as well. Alpha Prime Racing. He's going to take over the number 44 Chevrolet for both Portland and Sonoma, marking Lupton's first Xfinity Series races since the 2021 season finale at Phoenix Raceway. He's going to be sponsored by his family company. You can see the car and Lupton himself right there, both courtesy of jski.com. Lupton Excavation going to be the sponsor of that, which that would make sense. Why wouldn't you put the family name on there, you know? So, Dylan Lupton, Alpha Prime Racing, what does this do?
Nothing. Sorry, but nothing.
There you go. When we come back, a couple of big things happening in the Craftsman Truck Series. Not really much coming out of the NHRA or the Superstar Racing Experience. So once we get done with that, we got a bit of NASCAR general news, and we'll turn our attention to a whole lot of open wheel when we come back on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. Everybody in studio again this weekend. National Motorsports Appeals Panel upheld a ruling against 4 different Truck Series teams from earlier this month. Those 4 trucks found to have violated the rule regarding the age of the window nets in use. It means that the 2 trucks from G2G Racing, the 46 and 47, and from Young's Motorsports, the 12 and 20 respectively, each lose 25 owner points. All 4 crew chiefs get a fine of $5,000 per, and all of that remains in place. You and I talked about that over the course of, 2 years?
Yeah.
2 years old?
2.
Exactly how much wear and tear do these things take?
It's not from a sense of physical wear and tear. Let's word it that way. It's more from a sense of weathering wear and tear.
Well, I mean, you think about the elements that they're in: hot, cool, windy, obviously going 150 to 180, maybe even 190 miles an hour at any point in time, and all that stuff has to create some fraying on there. But ideally, is 2 years the best, or is this just them being overly cautious when it comes to the window nets?
2 years is the best, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But when it comes to window nets, you don't want to have any loose or weathered area of it.
Yeah, sure. The more fraying you got, the worse it is.
Because if some debris hits that window net and it comes in on you,
good.
You're not good.
So this is a good rule in your opinion?
Yeah,
very good. Okay. Corey Heim officially got scratched from the starting lineup of the race at Worldwide Tech Raceway Gateway on Friday. You can see the picture of young Corey here right now on CRN Live on YouTube. All the pictures that you're about to see of these 3, yes, this affects 3 different drivers, are courtesy of the fine folks over at jski.com. So Corey Heim is out. Tricon Garage put on social media that Heim is suffering from an illness. Going to get Jesse Love in the truck. Now, here's where we start playing around. This is kind of musical chairs, if you will. Jesse Love was supposed to drive this weekend for Tricon Garage at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. He was supposed to drive the number 1 truck. Instead, he gets pulled from the 1 truck and gets shifted to the 11 truck to take over for Corey Heim. They're going to keep Corey Heim's name on the truck. As to what happens to the 1 truck from Jesse Love, you go to this young lady, Tony Breidinger, takes over the 1 truck. This isn't the first time she's been in that truck this year either.
Negative.
Again, thanks to TobyChristie.com, Yahoo.com, and Speedsport.com for the pictures of Heim, Love, and Breidinger, respectively, as you just saw. Tricon added a statement that they put on their social media post, which, thanks to their social media post for this, that you can see on CRN Live, they're set to work with NASCAR also on a medical waiver for Heim, so the 20-year-old and 3-time winner in the series, who has a win this year, can remain eligible for the playoffs. Again, he has a win, and at this time, he has the most points of any driver in the Craftsman Truck Series. I don't see this as being a problem.
No, he'll be fine.
Let's go back real quick here. The suspension of Chase Elliott. They gave him a medical waiver earlier this year. Hendrick Motorsports now has to ask again for a waiver.
And it's already been granted.
I do find that interesting.
It would be different if you've had a precedent. I guess that's the word of the day, precedent. The precedent was set a few years ago when they gave a waiver to Johnny Sauter after being suspended. You give a waiver to Josh Williams after being suspended. You gave a waiver to Bubba Wallace after being suspended. Even though it was a playoff race, you still had a waiver that was given.
Yeah.
Why are we giving waivers for something when you do something stupid on the track?
Yeah, and I get it. I like the fact that at least they're being consistent. They've set the precedent of having granted it in the past, and they're going to continue to grant it. But at the same time, I'm kind of with you. I mean, if you really want to make that hurt, you don't give them the waiver.
Right. I mean, and it's like on the Dirty Mo Media podcast, Door Bumper Clear, Freddie Kraft, Bubba Wallace's spotter. He said with what they're doing, it's not making it hurt. If you're turning around and you get suspended, but you turn around and you get a waiver for the playoffs, what good is it doing?
Not really.
It's
Not much.
doing no good.
Yeah.
No good whatsoever. He said you got to make it hurt by if you get suspended for a deliberate action on the track. Let's word it that way.
There you go.
You lose. You don't lose your wins, but you lose your playoff eligibility. You have to earn your way back in, whether you point your way back in
Or grab another win
your way
later.
back in.
Yeah. You have to win post suspension or point your way in.
And he
back in.
could not have hit the nail on the head that much better.
I tend to agree with him.
I agree.
You got to make it hurt. You want to keep it from happening. I mean, 6 race suspension in the playoffs, $250,000 fine, and each and every round 25 points down. That's enough to make the 14 team stop and think, do we have all the right parts on the car at one time? That's going to hurt.
That hurts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott gets a weekend off, and it really doesn't hurt him otherwise. Okay.
He's still in Illinois doing sponsor appearances.
Whatever. Back to the Truck Series and better news. Brett Holmes Racing going to have 2, not just 1, but 2 new sponsors for today's race in St. Louis. They picked up 1 race deals with a new company called Grindstaff Rub and the IEBEW Chapter 309. Both are local to the St. Louis area. International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, 309. Grindstaff Rub is owned and operated by Jim Grindstaff. They're set to introduce a trifecta of rubs and sauces by using the 32 truck as a billboard. You can see what the truck's going to look like on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of the team's Facebook page. That's a pretty good-looking truck. That's the same basic look that they've had, the black and white look over the course of this year when they haven't had a major sponsor for any particular race. You can see one of their longtime sponsors, Southern State Bank, on the back end of the tailgate there. But, yeah, it's a sharp-looking truck right there. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's a good-looking deal, and it's good for them. They got some verbiage on the quarter panels.
We have been talking about maybe trying to put a sticker on there.
That discussion is still ongoing.
Just to let you know that may happen before the end of the year.
That discussion is still ongoing.
We are hoping for. A couple of other pictures here as well. A new Truck Series team set to join the field this weekend as GK Racing comes in to enter their number 95 truck. The team is co-owned by couples Clay and Tandra Greenfield. Clay obviously has been a NASCAR driver for a few years. Tandra Greenfield, as you can see by the statement that is just released, who knew she was a former NFL cheerleader?
Tennessee Titans.
Not bad at all. Clay's going to be the driver, and your co-owners are Jordan and Teresa Kiss. Jordan and Teresa Kiss own Backyard Blues Pools out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The team will be based not too far away from the Backyard Blues Pools headquarters in Tennessee. They're going to run a Toyota with the number 95 to honor Sadler Brothers Racing, which came out of the same area. You can see a picture of Clay Greenfield right there, and probably very much what not only his fire suit will, but also the paint scheme of the truck is going to look like. They're going to be a part-time team this year. They don't know exactly how many races they're going to run this year. Handful, probably, just to kind of get their feet up under them and make sure that everything's good to go. And then they hope to run a part-time, but a majority of the events coming up in 2024. Again, full announcement there. You saw it on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy from GK Racing's Twitter account. And then one more note when it comes to NASCAR. While we continue to await the official 2024 schedule releases for Cup, Xfinity, and the Truck Series, we do know a couple of things. We know the opening weekend, for example, Daytona 500 is going to take place on February the 18th. We now know the other end. That's right, championship weekend for the 4th straight year will take place at Phoenix Raceway after having been held at Homestead Miami Speedway for several years before that. We know because Matt and I happen to be there.
We were.
The 2024 race is going to take place on November the 1st and the 3rd. So we're going to have a 2024 season that will begin for the Cup Series anyway on February the 18th, weather permitting, and go all the way to November 3rd. Again, weather permitting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's... I continue to go back to the idea of 36 points races plus the All-Star race, so that's 37 events from February the 18th to November the 3rd. And then I think about what IndyCar's got in wrapping up their season in late August, early to mid-September at the latest, and starting in, I think, March. And I keep thinking to myself, there's so much room for growth on the part of IndyCar.
Quite a bit.
Speaking of IndyCar, during the recap, we noted that there were 2 late race flags. One of them was caused by a crash between Kyle Kirkwood and Felix Rosenqvist. Kyle Kirkwood's car got launched off the back of Rosenqvist, and then he hit the wall and flipped. And this caused a tire to come off of the car, literally fly off the car. You're going to see a still picture of it right here. And those of you looking at it on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of Total Pro Sports, that arrow, the yellow arrow right there, that's pointing at the tire that is flying between the grandstands coming off of turn 2 and a hospitality suite on the backstretch. When I saw this live, I really have to admit, my first thought was this thing's going into the grandstands.
I thought the same thing, too. I said, uh-oh.
And give or take, how much those things weigh each?
IndyCar tire has an aluminum wheel, so I'm going to say 30 pounds, give or take.
Okay. Let's put it to 40. At the speed that thing is going into the stands, that's going to feel a heck of a lot more than 40 pounds.
Yeah, it's going to do some damage.
If it's 15 feet further back towards turn 1, looking at that picture because it's turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 15 feet further back towards turn 1, unfortunately, I'm going to say we're going to be talking about the deaths of 15, 20 people maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of the same thing because that thing's going to ricochet off. There ain't no way you're going to be able to block that.
Not deaths, injuries / deaths to 15 to 20 people.
Yeah, I could see that very, very well. Well, that tire actually landed, thank God, in an alleyway between them, between both the grandstands and the hospitality suite. It did cause one fatality to that car right there.
Not missing much there.
It hit a white Chevrolet Cruze that belongs to a lady by the name of Robin Matthews. Matthews is a local. She's an IndyCar fan from the Indianapolis area. Nobody was hurt, again, luckily, but the car sustained a pretty good amount of damage. When Robin finally got found and she got told about it, she thought the person telling her was joking at first. She's like, you kidding me? My car's fine. But no, she confirmed the damage, which, again, you can see it right there, courtesy of Indianapolis Motor Speedway there on YouTube. She ended up getting kind of the red carpet treatment. She got a private tour of the Speedway. She got a chance to get her picture taken and kiss the famed Yard of Bricks all on the same day of the Indy 500. But that's not all. Roger Penske, owner of the IndyCar Series and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, said that they're going to make changes to the track to try and keep that from happening again. What does that mean? It means basically they're going to extend higher and up over the track a little bit more, the catch fence. Number 2, he's buying Robin a new car. We don't know what that car is going to be, at least not yet. But, yeah, Robin's going to get a new car courtesy of Roger Penske.
I think I'd have to look at him and say, yeah, I like one of those. Pointing to the pits.
At this point in time, I'd look at Roger and go, dude, whatever you want to give me, I'll take.
I would look him square in the eye, and I'd turn around to that Corvette pace car and say, that right there.
Thank you very much.
Ding,
That.
ding.
Matthews, who called the Cruze Snowball, had to be taken home. She was driven home, not in an Uber, not in a cab. She was escorted home by no less than Speedway President J. Douglas Bowles. The car sustained so much damage it had to be hauled away on a flatbed. IndyCar said that one person got hit by debris from the tire hitting the car, but they were checked and released from the infield care center with no treatment needed. Good night, almighty. One thing that we can say, Matthews' car isn't going to be worth anywhere near what Joseph Newgarden made for winning the Indy 500. We'll get into those details when we come back. Hour number 1 pretty much in the books here. We'll continue on with IndyCar news. We got plenty of Formula One news as well. There's a rumor floating around. It started at Monaco because they saw 2 people hanging around together from 2 different operations. And usually that creates rumors flying. Well, the rumor was addressed Thursday when all the teams arrived at Monaco. We'll talk about that when we come back. Plus, could the 2008 Formula One title be changing hands? Probably not, but we'll talk about it when we come back right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Let's get hour number 2 underway. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. If you're just now joining us, hey, we've had a whole hour. It's been a busy hour. Where you been? We have a 2-hour show. It starts at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time every single week. Please join us. We thank you very much for those of you who have been with us the whole time. We just talked about what happened at Indy with that tire flying off. And again, it just absolutely flabbergasting that one person kind of got nicked by some debris that came off of the car and that nobody else got hurt.
Probably from the busted headlight.
Probably. But yeah, just absolutely amazing. And again, Roger Penske's buying Robin Matthews a brand new car out of all of that trouble. What we do know is this: that car's not going to be worth anywhere near what Joseph Newgarden made for winning his very first Indy 500 title.
If that car does not end up in the IMS museum, I'll be surprised.
Do it. Do it. That'd be fun. 2-time series champion Joseph Newgarden for winning the Indy 500 pockets a cool $3.666 million. Is that all? Darn. Slow day. It's easily the biggest purse win of his career. It's a jump up $500,000 over what last year's winner of the Indy 500 took home, Marcus Ericsson. It also puts his team owner Roger Penske's total number of Indy 500 wins at 19. Good grief. Some other stats to note. Keep in mind, this is estimated because nobody really, it doesn't matter what the major series is, nobody really talks about the exact number of people that come through the turnstiles on a race day or any race weekend. These are all basically estimates. But for the most part, about 330,000 people are said to have attended the Indy 500, second largest race day crowd since 2000. Actual attendance figures, again, not announced, estimated figures, but still, judging by what we know about Indianapolis Motor Speedway, infield, grandstands, which are almost all the way around the track, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Let's see. Total purse, including the winner's check, $17,021,500. That's $1 million over what the total purse was for this race last year, and it continues to go up. This is something that Roger Penske said he wanted to do. He said this is one of the most prestigious races in the entire world, regardless of what the racing series is. I want to make sure that it gets paid out like that. And he's a man of his word, no doubt about it. NBC also talking about their television ratings. They report a 4.92 million people that were watching it over the network and the Peacock streaming service. They say that's up 2% from what the numbers were in 2022. So congratulations to them. It really would have been interesting to see, because this is the most watched race for IndyCar by far throughout the course of the year. It would have been interesting to have seen what the numbers would have been for the Coca-Cola 600 on Fox later on that night if rain had not gotten in the way.
Yeah.
Welcome back in, John.
Well, thank you.
Arrow McLaren Racing has made a corporate decision regarding their initial plans for an Indiana headquarters. They were thinking about brand new construction. Now, they don't have to put that money out there. They've turned to Andretti Autosport. Andretti Autosport has announced they've come to terms on a deal to purchase the facility and make it Arrow McLaren's facility, which they can move into beginning in 2025 when Andretti Autosport moves into their brand new world headquarters. Good grief. Andretti Global is what it's going to be called by that point in time. The current Andretti building, 89,000 square feet. It's about 3 times the current size of the Arrow McLaren shop. The 2025 move-in date is earlier than any new construction would have allowed them to move in. So, yeah, they get a race-ready shop and 3 times the size of what they had.
That's no joke, because when I went to Indianapolis last September, I saw the Arrow McLaren shop versus the Andretti Autosport shop, and this is like going from, how do I word this? This is like going from a Piggly Wiggly to a Walmart Supercenter.
I was going to say going from an outhouse to a penthouse, but hey.
Piggly Wiggly to a Walmart Supercenter.
Before we move on, quick question. This just popped in my head. You were talking about the purse for races.
Yeah.
How is that given out, Matt? Is the purse given to the driver or the team?
The purse goes out. It's listed to the driver. All right. But per how their contract goes that they have with their respective team, the driver will get a certain percentage of whatever they win.
So it technically goes to the team.
Yeah, technically it goes to the team, but per team it's listed as under what the driver won. But default it goes to the team, and then the team per what the contract statutes of each respective driver is. So say if Steve wins Indy and I'm second behind him, he gets 3.67 million. I'm gonna call it that. 3.67 million. And I get second place 1.85 million. They cut first to second and half, then it goes down. If Steve's contract statutes say that he's entitled to 40% of the winnings,
I'll take that paycheck.
Right?
I'd take a 4% paycheck.
He would have
to make it easy, 10%. Let's say it's 10%.
Let's say 10%. That would be
it's 300,000.
300,000.
Roughly.
All right.
So that's what he would pocket.
That's what he would pocket.
Okay.
If my contract states I get 50% being the driver of the car, that means I'm walking out with $900,000.
Yeah.
Right. So it's contract based.
It's contract
but
based.
The purse itself goes technically to the team.
Well, and there are 2 ways of also looking at it, because if I'm the team owner in this case and you're the driver, you and I have a contract.
Pay me.
Yeah, really. You and I would have a contract that states you get X amount of winnings per race, but there may also be riders with the sponsor that state that you get X amount of money per race from said sponsor. So there's a lot of different levels to this. But yeah,
I was just curious about the track purse.
Yeah, we'll say that. It's a nice, comfortable payday for Mr. Newgarden. Let's just put it that way.
Okay,
we don't know the details, but yeah, it's going to be a nice, comfortable payday for Joseph Newgarden. One more note out of IndyCar in that apparently Linus Lundqvist is going to get an IndyCar ride sooner than later. Indy NXT driver or Indy Next driver Linus Lundqvist apparently impressed those who saw his test at Texas Motor Speedway for Rahal Letterman Lanigan, and he's going to get another one. This time around, he's going to get a test with Ed Carpenter Racing, and this will happen at Sebring, which is generally where a lot of IndyCar teams go to test because it is not a track that they run on a regular basis, so you pretty much have the ability to go down there almost anytime you want. Racer.com is reporting that the link between the driver and the team, although they admit that neither the team nor the driver has confirmed that a test is scheduled. Should this happen, this means that he will have tested a Honda engine with RLL, and he will have tested a Chevy engine with ECR. You can see the IndyCar hopeful right there on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of IndyCar.com. Again, you don't get a test in a Honda-powered team and a test with a Chevrolet-powered team without a whole lot of teams looking at you and going, yeah, right. If we got an opening, we really would like to consider you as part of our operation probably next year.
True, yeah. He's doing something to open eyes up.
I don't know what it is that he's exactly doing. We don't follow Indy Next on a regular basis, so at some point in time here in the near future, we might update you on what's going on in points and stuff like that. Real quick, before we get into Formula One news, all three practices have happened. Shouldn't come as anybody's surprise that Red Bull pretty much dominated them all with Max Verstappen. Qualifying, I believe, is underway.
It is, with 14 minutes to go in Q1.
Okay.
You've got Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon setting 1-2 right now.
I'm guessing that Max Verstappen hasn't run yet.
No, you're correct. Max Verstappen has not ran.
We'll see what happens once he gets out there.
Yeah, that's
any surprises?
The only 7 to run so far.
Oh, okay, so it's real early.
Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Fernando Alonso. That is 1 through 7 currently right now.
Second practice yesterday, the name Max Verstappen at the top shouldn't have surprised anybody. The name in third, I think, actually popped open a lot of eyes because that happened to be Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah.
But Gunther Steiner and everybody over at Haas F1 said, this is the kind of course, this is the kind of track. Again, they're in Spain, Barcelona, Catalunya. This is the kind of track that really benefits us. This is a high-speed track, and we've got our cars set up for high-speed courses.
Right.
We'll see whether or not that translates into qualifying and or race trim tomorrow. Meantime, when you can't beat them, you go grab their team members and you get them to join you. Something like that. When it comes to being one of the most successful teams, literally in any sport, the other teams in the leagues or series in this case want to grab your personnel and bring them over to their place to try and make them be more like your major success. Okay? Yankees, as much as I hate the New York Yankees, I'm a Boston guy. What do you want? Everybody kind of went after their players. Everyone kind of went after their coaches, their front office personnel, and to somewhat extent still do because they want to see if they can get some of that magic. As our team, Matt and I's team, the New England Patriots, were successful over the first 2 decades of this century, we saw coaches leave the Patriots administration and go to many, many other teams as many, many other teams tried to get the same success as what the Patriots were doing. I know that Matt's an Auburn fan. But when you look at what's going on over in Tuscaloosa, how many coaches have left Tuscaloosa under Nick Saban and gone on to be head coaches at many other colleges? Why? They want the same success that Nick Saban has had at the University of Alabama. You see where I'm going with this. So therefore, Red Bull, ripe for the picking.
Yeah.
And they've lost another employee to another Formula One operation. Rob Marshall leaves Red Bull after 17 years with that operation, most notably as their chief engineering officer. He slides over to McLaren to officially become their technical director, engineering and design. It's a move that will be official on January the 1st. Knowing that he's ready to leave, though, what are the chances he finishes out the year at Red Bull?
Slim.
Mm-hmm. Put yourself in the position of the guys at Red Bull and ask yourself, this guy says he's leaving, he's going to a competitor. It'll be effective January the 1st. Do you want him hanging around your office that long, gathering even more information and knowing exactly what you got planned? I mean, I get it. He's probably been an integral part of making those plans, and maybe it's already set through the end of the year. But how much longer do you really want him in the office and learning what you guys got working up the next couple of years? You don't.
No, you don't.
So he's going to get himself about 6 months off. Not a bad deal. Let's see what else is going to happen there. Well, he will be taken over for the soon-to-depart James Key. He will answer directly to the team principal, Andrea Stella. Red Bull has yet to name a replacement. I don't imagine it'll take too long, and well, I don't see it making much of a difference this year. Put it that way. Partnership between Formula One and Dutch beer brand Heineken gotten a bit of an extension. Heineken came on board with Formula One in 2016. And while promoting their brand worldwide, they're also promoting their, quote, "When you drive, never drink" campaign, because they want to bring more attention to and attempt to curb drunken driving all around the world. In addition to the major sponsorship, it gains them signage at all races. Heineken also becomes the title sponsor of the very first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix coming up in November. So it'll be the Heineken Las Vegas Grand Prix.
That's not a surprise why Heineken sponsors F1 stuff.
Not at all.
I'm not surprised.
No, not at all. Rumors. They are what they are. This one's huge, though. We don't generally go through the process of dealing with rumors on a regular basis. Thank you for the whispering. This one, though, there might be some teeth to this. Mm-hmm. And I say might. There's a lot of layers to this. To borrow Shrek, it's like an onion. There are many layers to this. So let's start off with the basic rumor. Rumors started swirling early this week that Alfa Romeo might not be yet done with Formula One. Now, obviously, with the Audi pairing coming up in 2026, Sauber has decided to cut ties with Alfa Romeo after this season. Alfa Romeo is really nothing more than the title sponsor for Sauber. So it's Alfa Romeo Sauber Racing. Technically, we just tend to call them Alfa Romeo just because, well, it's easier. Then they'll have 2 seasons as Sauber Racing only and begin with Audi in 2026 in a clean slate. So what's Alfa Romeo to do? Well, here's the thing. Again, Alfa Romeo is just a title sponsor. They don't offer their own engine. Got to remember, they're under the same umbrella in the company as Ferrari under Stellantis. Now, do keep in mind, Ferrari is kind of really less sister and more cousin operation, because what Stellantis has done, even when they were under Fiat alone, was that Ferrari was kind of their own separate entity, but just owned by Fiat, but operated all really by themselves. So Ferrari carries its own weight, has its own umbrella, but either way, Alfa and Ferrari are related. And Ferrari would likely nix any idea that any other brand name under the Stellantis umbrella would offer up a Formula One engine. Unlike what Volkswagen's willing to do, which is entering Formula One with 2 companies, Audi and Porsche. Porsche still is not aligned with any team. Andretti World, Andretti Global, just saying. Could get you in the door. What you do after that? But either way, with Volkswagen willing to go with both Audi and Porsche in 2 separate and technically competing engine programs, Ferrari's not willing to do that. So how would Alfa stay in Formula One? Well, it would have to be kind of like their deal with Sauber as a title sponsor. But who? Again, it's not likely Ferrari. Ferrari has been their own deal for a long time. It's not likely to be any direct Ferrari competitor as well. So it really only leaves one option, and that's the final customer Ferrari team, Haas F1. Could it happen? Maybe. Rumors began flying when Haas F1's team principal Gunther Steiner was actually seen at Monaco with Alfa Romeo CEO Jean-Philippe Imperato, said that a deal for a title sponsorship was in place to begin in 2024. That was the rumor. Thing about it is, that'd be news to MoneyGram. MoneyGram is the company that signed the title sponsorship papers for Haas F1 before this season began. And, oh, that's right, it was a multi-year deal. Steiner clarified what happened at Monaco when he arrived in Spain for this weekend's race. Said, really, this was only an introduction. Adding, quote, a lot of people are saying this to me, talking about the sponsorship, but the only ones who haven't told me that yet, Alfa Romeo.
When you have teams like Aston Martin, Romeo, Mercedes, Cognizant, F1, JCB, BWT team.
Frosted Flakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who's not to say that it could not be the MoneyGram Alfa Romeo Haas F1 team?
Or Alfa Romeo MoneyGram. It could happen either way.
Either way.
Steiner continued in talking about this, said this, quote, MoneyGram is our title sponsor for now and for the foreseeable future. We've got a contract, and they're very good to work with. We have a very good relationship with them. They do have a lot of activations, as you guys saw, and they're doing a very good job. And then he concluded that he would never say never. And that leads me to believe that there is the possibility that there could be something here. Will this happen? No, we don't know. Could it happen? Sure. Absolutely. Would this be a boon to Haas F1? Absolutely. Because the thing about it is, Haas F1, as we've talked about, they've had, let's just call it a sketchy relationship with title sponsors before.
A little.
The energy drink company from, 3 years ago? That gave them a very good-looking car. Rich Energy was really kind of flaky. Yeah, that caused problems. And it looked like they were going to have a pretty good one with Ural-Kali until the whole situation with Russia being stupid and invading Ukraine came along. And I don't care what, really don't care what Vladimir Putin uses any kind of an excuse to go in there. It's not a good reason.
No.
You walked in there for no dang purpose whatsoever except for trying to gain land. That's it. You're trying to recreate the old Soviet Union, Vlad. And therefore, you have basically come down with the wrath of the world upon you in many different ways. And it happened in the racing world. And it happened to hit Ural-Kali and the driver, Nikita Mazepin.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal. They got MoneyGram in, which is, for them, the first American-based company that is their title sponsor. They seem to be a heck of a lot more stable as well. So that's a good thing. But you noted it. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them to be able to go in and say, hey, MoneyGram came in first, but Alfa Romeo, you come in, we'll call ourselves MoneyGram Alfa Romeo Haas F1. Or heck, just call yourself MoneyGram Alfa Romeo.
True.
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either. Haas F1 could, still put the Haas Automation or Haas CNC somewhere on the car. You get the Alfa Romeo logo that's currently on the Sauber car. You put that on there. You put the MoneyGram logo on there. It's not like you ain't got the room on the car to do it.
Aston Martin, Cognizant, Aramco Formula One team.
It can be done. Do it.
It can be.
Yeah, do it. If you can get MoneyGram and Alfa Romeo to work together, I think it could be actually a very good deal for Haas F1. Give them a little bit more money in the coffers and give them a little bit more money to be able to go and do the improvements that they actually need to do on a regular basis as well.
Correct.
But we're not done with Gunther Steiner. He's calling upon Formula One to do something that other series have done, but Formula One hasn't done yet. We'll detail it when we come back after this break right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
If you're listening on the local station, our flagship 95.1 The Mountain, you might have just heard a deal about the NASCAR experience out there at Talladega. If I remember right, they've got a deal where you can take your own car out there coming up as well here in the next couple of weeks.
17th.
2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Maybe we'll be on location. Maybe. I don't know yet. We'll find out. Anyway, so we got to talking about Gunther Steiner, who visited and met with. He called it an introduction. He had never met the Alfa Romeo CEO before. So it was basically an introduction, but I get the funny feeling that there may be more to it coming up later. That might have been paving a road, in other words. Meanwhile, Gunther, who is, let's face it, he's no shrinking violet. He also took to calling Formula One out. States F1 needs to hire full-time race stewards that would travel to the races as opposed to hiring local officials in each country. Part of what got under his skin was a penalty that was handed down to Nico Hülkenberg in a Lap 1 incident at Monaco. Stewards slapped Nico Hülkenberg for causing a collision with the Williams car of Logan Sargent. Steiner is hot because, well, he can't find any camera angle of the situation that would have confirmed that Hülkenberg was actually at fault, but at the same time said he saw several other collisions that were not mentioned and were not punished like Hülkenberg was. Now, I'll admit to this. I was out of town, and I did not get the chance to see this incident in question. Did you?
No.
Okay.
I did not either.
So neither one of us had the chance to see it, but you and I are quite familiar with what happens on lap 1 of any Formula One race. It's a standing start, and at a place like Monaco, yeah, contact, I'm sure, was made.
Yeah.
Gunther Steiner got a point?
He's not wrong.
Okay. And I tend to agree with you on that as well. Steiner said, quote, "I think it's now time. We've been discussing this for years and years, and we always go back to this. Every other sport has professional referees. American racing, NASCAR, Indycar, how many times do you hear problems with the stewards or with the race director's decisions? Very rarely. We'll get back to that. But they're doing it completely differently. There are full-time people working there." And he's right about that.
Yep.
We've talked about it, and we're not doing this as a brag. We're doing this because, well, we got lucky enough to be able to go not only here at Talladega, but in 2018 and 2019, calling races from the PA booth at Darlington, both 2018 and 2019, and in 2019 also went to Richmond and went to Homestead, Miami. And we saw the same officials every race, and they got to know us and looking at us and going, a little ways from home, aren't you? Nope, we're right where we're supposed to be.
Where we're supposed to be. Yep.
But it was the same people. I can't speak for IndyCar because I haven't been in the area where the IndyCar officials are when I went to go see the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader from the grandstands in 2021. And when I helped out at Barber, I was nowhere near where the officials were.
Right.
But I think he's probably very much correct in the fact that Roger Penske would like to make this as foolproof as possible. So I have no doubt he's right there as well, in that Steiner says both NASCAR and IndyCar have full-time professional officials that travel with the series and go to every race. Now, as far as do we hear problems, Matt and I could talk about being a little bit too quick on the trigger, throwing a caution flag, but okay.
Yeah.
Then we hear about what's going on over in Formula One, and they don't have officials that have things going the same way from one race to the next. So you're going to run, in this case, this year, 22 races, and technically you're going to have 22 sets of officials?
You can't be consistent with that.
You can't.
You can't.
There's no way on God's green earth you can do that.
Q1 is over in Spain.
Okay. We'll get back to this conversation here in a moment. We'll get back to that in a moment. You can't be consistent, and if you can't have that consistency, then you have room for the argument, the very same argument that Gunther Steiner is posting right here, in the fact that if you can't be consistent in your rulings and you are looking only at one situation and not being blanket across the board, in other words, you see contact between Nico Hülkenberg and Logan Sargent, but then you see contact between Matt and myself, and you don't call either Matt or me on it, depending on who it was that was at fault for making the contact, probably me, then you're wrong. I mean, I'll be the first person to admit that dude's the professional racer. I'm the guy that is fascinated and love getting behind the wheel, but he's more the professional than I am.
Amateur. That's me. I'm not professional yet. I don't hold a license.
But you're more so than I am. Let's put it that way. Okay? The next time I strap on a helmet and get into an actual race will be my first. This guy's done it. So, yeah. In all honesty, if we were going to be making contact on the track, it'd probably be me making contact with him, not the other way around.
Yeah, Matt will run you a clean race.
Oh, yeah.
Steve will run bumper cars.
No, that's you.
I run demolition derby.
I know how to make it look to where it's not conspicuous if I move you out of the way.
There you go. See, I'm not good enough to be able to do that yet.
My mentor, when I was coming up through the ranks, God rest his soul, always told me, his exact words in a Y7 version, your rear end will tell you if that lick that you take is deliberate or inadvertent.
There you go.
Your rear end's going to tell you that.
Formula One, the FIA, they haven't commented yet, but yeah, this is something that the FIA and Formula One need to look at, is hiring full-time people. All right, let's look at it. Q1, who's out?
The first 5 out are 20-16. Logan Sargent.
Okay.
Charles Leclerc.
Whoa.
Alex Albon.
That's a little bit of a surprise, but then again, it's Williams, so.
Kevin Magnussen.
So much for this being a track that fits Haas F1.
Valtteri Bottas.
Okay, so Nico Hülkenberg was where?
Nico Hülkenberg was P7.
Okay. Well, maybe this is more Nico Hülkenberg's track than Haas F1's track. Let's talk about 2008. Why are we talking about the 2008 Formula One title? Well, right now it belongs to current Mercedes driver Sir Lewis Hamilton, but Felipe Massa thinks that it might actually belong to him. If you go back to the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, it was overheard that Renault, which is now Alpine, ordered one of their drivers, Nelson Piquet Jr. to be specific, to deliberately crash his race car, which he did. What happened after that gave Fernando Alonso the opening he needed to win the race, and in the aftermath, it became known in the Formula One world as Crashgate. Details show that Piquet's crash caused havoc on pit road during a time when Formula One cars were actually refueling during pit stops. Then Alonso's team was able to get him out in a hurry. Felipe Massa's Ferrari crew somehow started panicking, released Massa without fully detaching the fuel hose, caused a penalty, leaving the pits with equipment attached. Alonso went on to win the race. Hamilton finished third. Massa finished in 13th, which if you are a Formula One person, you know that is outside of any championship points. The season-ending points, Lewis Hamilton wins the title. It was a much different scoring system back then, with 97. Massa pulled down 96.
Row.
In the aftermath, Alonso was cleared of having any knowledge of the team orders, kept his win. As for Massa, he said he's been looking at all possible options, admits he is thinking very seriously about some legal action. He added there really isn't a way for him to appeal the 2008 results through the existing sports courts, but that's not stopping Massa because he wants all the information to come out about the race. All I could think of when this story came down was Michael Waltrip Racing. Think about what happened. What was that, 2015, 2016? 13, or even earlier. What was the order given?
Arm's itching. Don't you think you need to scratch it?
Mm-hmm. And what happened? A crash. I mean, they're even trying to put it in code. Apparently, they blatantly told Nelson Piquet Jr., crash the car.
We don't care how much it costs, crash the car.
Okay, then. I guess we'll see what happens as this comes along.
I'm kind of baffled at this cup practice right now.
Yeah, what's going on?
Carson Hocevar is way ahead of Corey LaJoy.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah, very.
All right. We'll keep an eye on that, too. Let's get to a couple more stories here before we take our final break, and we'll get into some CRN story time along with one Matt Nicholson. First of all, a couple more pictures as well, as DS Penske set to run a special paint scheme this weekend. DS Automobiles celebrating their 100th Formula One race. Drivers John-Eric Verne and Stoffel Van Dorn set to sport a black and gold look. It's majority black, bare carbon fiber really, with gold highlights on the front and rear wings and on top of the car. You're about to see this car on CRN live on YouTube, courtesy of DS Penske's social media account specifically. In their time with varying partner owners, DS Automobiles has claimed 16 wins, 47 podiums, 22 pole positions. They featured noted series drivers like Sam Bird, Andre Lauderer, Antonio Felix da Costa, and your current pairing that I just mentioned, John-Eric Verne and Stoffel Van Dorn. And they claimed back-to-back season titles back in the season's 5th and 6th years with Verne and da Costa, respectively. The actual 100th race, tomorrow morning's race, the second in the Jakarta double header. That black and gold look goes back a long ways within open-wheel racing in IndyCar, Formula One, and now Formula E.
Lotus.
And I'm sorry, folks, it's still a sharp look. It's still a sharp look.
It does. It does look good.
Meanwhile, Mahindra very unhappy with how their season has been going so far. So out immediately is Oliver Rowland, and in Rowland, by the way, currently sits 19th in season points with only 9, half the amount of his teammate Lucas Degrassi's 18, and he's underwhelming for Degrassi as well, who's sitting in 15th place. So Rowland, gone. Now, end of sentence. Replaced by ex-Formula One driver Roberto Merhi, who was part of the Berlin rookie test in the early part of May, steps in for the doubleheader race weekend in Jakarta. The native of Spain tested for Caterham in Formula One in 2014. Remember them, kids? But didn't have enough points to claim his super license at the time. You can see the new Mahindra driver on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of motorsport.com. He had enough points from 2014 into 2015, and while did not go to Caterham, Manor Marussia brought him in, but the team had too many problems. They were really not competitive in the open. Well, they actually didn't even compete in the opening race that year. The bad beginning for the driver and the team. The team then decided that, well, over the final 7 races, let's go see what else we can do. And they tried out the American driver who's now in IndyCar, Alexander Rossi, in 5 of the season's final 7 races. But even that didn't help. The team ran out of money. They left Formula One after 2015 and left Merhi without a ride. Since then, he's mostly competed in Formula 2. He's run Le Mans several times as well. So Roberto Merhi now has himself an option and a ride in Formula E, at least through the remainder of this year. After that, we don't know.
When we come back, it was teased on social media this week about a major announcement forthcoming. It's coming up next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here. We'll get to CRN story time in a moment. Two things going on right now on tracks around the world. Let's start with qualifying in Formula One. We just talked about it. Q1 is over. Q2 has begun.
Q2 has now got 5 minutes left. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, and Fernando Alonso, surprise, surprise, is your top three with 5 minutes left.
Not really a surprise, no.
The bottom five currently is you got Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Nick DeVries, Yuki Tsunoda, and Nico Hülkenberg.
So Nico Hülkenberg is making noise about trying to get into Q3. We'll find out. And then over at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, they're in practice for the Cup Series.
Yes, right now your fastest three are Joey Logano, William Byron, and Kyle Larson. Your fastest group, that's the overall fastest. Logano, Group A driver. Your Group B driver that was fastest is Eric Almirola. They're about to transfer into qualifying now.
Okay. So that brings us to CRN story time. And this really is not about your time at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
It's really not.
It's called CRN Fastlane Chat.
If that's what you're going to call it, yeah.
Okay, well, let's do it that way.
All right. I'll admit, this week wasn't the greatest of weeks. It wasn't. Anybody that knows the story that my wife and I have dealt with over the years, that's along the same lines, we'll leave it at that. So, got an unexpected, out of nowhere phone call. And much to the delight of Chi-Town Mark, the national nightmare comes to an end tonight. I'm going to be getting back behind the wheel and running in a modified race in Clanton, Alabama tonight.
At a place called?
The place is it's a new track called Buckshot Speedway. It is built across Alabama. I'm about to say I-65. Built across from Alabama Highway 22 from the old Central Alabama Motor Speedway that was destroyed in a tornado years ago. Got to say thanks to Dwayne Robinson. He gave me the call and asked me to, excuse me.
Not cough.
Not cough, yeah. Asked me to pilot his car for him tonight, just out of nowhere. So I gladly obliged.
Sure.
And going to go get a little dirty tonight.
Not bad at all. I'm going to go check him out, too, once we get all the details. You can see the car right there. That's the car that Matt is going to be driving on CRN Live on YouTube. Is this your picture?
This is his photo.
That's his photo.
It's his photo.
All right. So good-looking little car. There is something missing.
A little.
And
a little.
Producer John noted this as well. If you really look at the car, there's a little room there between the front of the 1 on the 13 and the beginning of the fender right there. That'd be like a really nice spot to put a nice logo that kind of looks like that right there. Just
yeah,
saying.
this race is the Southern Sportsman Modified Series race. This is going to be interesting because 1, never piloted a modified. 2, I've never seen this racetrack. 3, I've never driven a crate engine car. So, as the old saying goes, YOLO.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting attempt at Photoshop there, John.
YOLO.
I tried.
Yeah, hey, I mean, I don't blame him. You know, this is what he does. And here's the thing. If somebody were to call and offer me the ride, I'd have a hard time turning it down, too, although I don't have the equipment to actually do it. He's got a helmet. He's got a fire suit. He's got all that stuff. I don't have any of that. But, yeah, it would be a lot of fun to be able to actually do it. And I'll be down there cheering him on. I know producer John, he's got some other things that are more pressing when it comes to the family. Otherwise, he would probably be there as well. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to going and checking out not only the track, but seeing Matt as he gets back into some driving action. I know that that's something that he really would love to do.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was unexpected on a let's just say a down week. Let's call it that. But it's going to be good to get back behind the wheel and race with some other competitors that I've raced with in the past. They're running in the same division. 30-lap A-main. Got heat races, qualifying, hot laps. So really the first hot laps is not going to be completely full speed. James Greer, the track is in Clanton, Alabama.
Okay.
down off of going towards Maplesville, in between Clanton and Maplesville on Highway 22. But, you know, we're going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
See what we can do.
I love it. I think it's great. Congratulations on getting the ride. And, you know, hey, it takes you a little bit to get your feet wet, and then suddenly you're able to drop the hammer.
Yeah, I'm just going to fill the car. I'm going to fill the car out in hot laps and warm-ups. And then so hopefully with the way my past track record has been, hopefully I don't pull a low-number peel because nothing that I hate more than going out early to qualify. So, yeah. First wide open full speed lap's gonna be in qualifying, so YOLO.
Okay. Real quick, I know you just went over it. Let's go over it once again. Where's the track located, and when does all this hot laps and everything, and when did the feature start?
Hot laps are scheduled to start at 6:30 this afternoon. The track is in between Clanton and Maplesville. Buckshot Speedway. It's a new facility that was built last year that has really, really taken off in a big way. But like I said, I've never had my eyes on the place, nor have my feet been on the dirt there. So we're going to take this one and roll with it the best we can. It's on Alabama 22 in between Clanton and Maplesville.
Yeah. And I take it a full slate of racing tonight?
I do believe so.
Okay. So you're going to have, probably at least 4, maybe 6 up to 7 different divisions racing, maybe?
Let me check it out real quick.
Thank you, Chi-Town Mark. Gas pedals on the right.
Gas
Just
pedals,
as a reminder.
Hey, gas pedals on the right.
That's all you need to know is where to go fast.
Clutches on the left.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Clutches on the left.
So when was the last time, other than when you and I have had excursions out at Talladega or Atlanta, when was the last time you were in a race car, in a competitive environment? Let's put it that way.
Early 2018.
Okay. So it's been 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. 5 years. My foot has been twitching, yes.
Oh, I'm sure.
But, so we will, wow. They just shared the total purse of the payout tonight is $7,500.
Nice. Be a nice little deal. So, hey, hopefully you get the chance to come on out there again. Everything starts up at about 6:30. Just look up Buckshot Speedway or Highway 22 between Clanton and Maplesville.
Yeah, the address is on their social media page on Facebook.
There you go.
So it's there.
Good stuff. Hopefully you'll have the chance to come out like I'm going to head on out. And, of course, got the racing going on this weekend. Again, what's going on in the Cup Series. Let's kind of run down that top. Let's do top 20. You did top 20 for me before.
Let me go back to it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, with them about to start qualifying, qualifying trim and practice trim sometimes are not the same. For what we've seen now, though, there's not really a whole lot of adjustment that they could do to make a car go qualifying versus Cup, qualifying versus race, as opposed to doing something like, taping up the front end a little more. Which I don't think they're really going to do that much anymore either.
No, qualifying round just has started. JJ Yeley, your first car on the track.
All right, a long way to go there.
Yeah, it's a long way to go. Practice. Let me see here.
Don't tell me they already got rid of it.
Yeah, it's already gone. Let me go the old school way here.
All right. But, Joey Logano being fast there in the early rounds, not really a surprise. You had stated, you think about the slap that NASCAR gave Chase Briscoe, and you had mentioned, I think Chase Briscoe was just inside the top 10, which tells me that they're certainly not willing to give up the fight, even though this is one massive uphill battle for that 14 car. If you missed it early on in the show, Chase Briscoe and the 14 team hit with some major penalties because they put what they called a counterfeit NACA duct on the panel going into the engine. This is a single-sourced NASCAR part. You have to use theirs, and somehow Stewart-Haas Racing screwed it up.
How does that happen? How do you put a counterfeit part on a car?
You probably wanted to put something on there that was a placeholder so that you didn't mar up the single-source part. And this is my guess. I don't know this for a fact. But if it's me, I'm like, okay, I don't want to mar up the actual part. So let's put up a similar one to it in a 3D printer, and this will be a placeholder. And you put it down on the checklist. Get rid of the mock-up and put the actual one in.
So Matt, as you're looking that up, is this part lighter perhaps than the actual part itself?
Could be lighter. It could
printing off of a plastic printer.
Possibly, yes.
It could be lighter. Possible. It could be flimsier. It could redirect more or less air. There's a lot of different possibilities here. So there's a lot of different chances here. But yeah, they basically fabricated their own part, stuck it in there as a placeholder instead of putting the actual NASCAR single source part in there, and they left it. They didn't go through and put on the checklist, remove, mock up, or fabricated, whatever you want to call it, Nacaduct, and replace it with the NASCAR single source part. And NASCAR found it, and they called them on it, as they should have. Mm-hmm. And their crew chief gets suspended for 6 races. They get fined $250,000. Stewart-Haas Racing, as the owner, gets docked 120 regular season points, which is not a small thing. So did Chase Briscoe. Even though he probably had little to nothing to do with this whole thing, he drops from 17th in points, where he had been 4 points out, to now 124 points out, sitting in 31st. So they go out and they get Mike Bugaravich, who's been with Stewart-Haas Racing for a number of years and been a crew chief for Stewart-Haas Racing as well. He takes over for the next 6 races for Chase Briscoe. And they were in top 10 in the practice session, if I remember right.
Yes, they were 8th.
Okay, so this tells me that they're not giving up the fight, even though it's a massive uphill battle to, number 1, make the playoffs, and then number 2, to try and go and move on from round number 1 into round number 2, because that 25-point deduction will hit for every single round of the playoffs that he advances into.
Correct.
Ouch. But they're not quitting. They're not giving up. And why would you? I mean, it's a good team. It's a good car with, I hate to say this because I'm a Stewart-Haas Racing fan, but you take the fan hat off and, kind of like what Chi-Town Mark says, put the media hat on. They've been wildly inconsistent.
Very inconsistent.
They have shown speed, but they have not been able to regularly build upon the promise that speed that they sometimes show. They haven't been able to build on it and make it consistent in really any of the cars. I mean, you talked about where Kevin Harvick was in practice, and it was way down because you talked about the top 20. Guess whose name wasn't in there? Kevin Harvick.
He finished up 27th. Ryan Preece was 22nd, and then you had Briscoe and Almirola 8, 9, respectively.
How do you get that wild of a difference in performance amongst your 4 cars?
I don't know. But to answer your question earlier, there will be 7 divisions running tonight.
There you go. Going to be a fun night of racing.
Yeah.
Going to be a fun night of racing over there at Buckshot Speedway. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, going back to it, I don't know how you get that much difference amongst the 4 cars in one building, in one shop. How can they be that far off?
I don't know.
I mean, it can't just be the personality of the drivers. I get it. John's got a different way of driving than I do. I got a different way of driving than you do. If we're a 3-car operation, sure. We all 3 have different ways of driving, but at the same point in time, we're all 3 getting our cars built by the same organization.
With the same stuff.
Can they be that radically different?
It's all according to setup and driver feel.
I guess. It just seems so whacked out to me. I don't quite understand it. But, up at the top of the charts?
Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Michael McDowell, and Tyler Reddick, top 5.
Michael McDowell continues to be that guy who you just kind of look at and go, dang, he's good. Better than most people think.
You think quiet.
Yeah. And the same with Front Row Motorsports. We've talked about Front Row Motorsports here not that long ago. And we're going to do it again. Because this is a team that we looked at and we were able to dismiss on a regular basis, kind of like Rick Ware Racing just, 5 years ago? You can't do that now.
Yeah, you really can't.
Cannot do that now. When you get a guy who is not even full-time in the series, and last weekend at Charlotte, he claims the top 10 in Zane Smith, they've got something going on over there. Mm-hmm. And Zane Smith probably is destined to be in a Cup Series car pretty soon.
Probably.
Where? We don't know. We thought probably he was going to be next in line to take over the 4-car. But now, according to at least a lot of reports from pretty reliable sources, that may be Josh Berry. But now we're hearing more rumors of the fact that Eric Almirola might be considering, again, stepping out of the 10 car. Josh Berry and Zane Smith, Stewart-Haas Racing.
I could see it happening.
I guess
I
we'll
can
see.
realistically see it happening.
I guess we'll see. All right. Buckshot Speedway, technically in Clanton.
Yes.
About midway between Clanton and Maplesville, to be real honest with you. 6:30 is when everything begins. Hopefully you can make it on out there if you are of a local. If you are not, hey, guess what we get to do next week? CRN Storytime with Matt. Talk about the racing and his return to it.
To quote Dean Portman out of D3, the Mighty Ducks, it's official, boys. I'm back.
There you go. Can't wait for it. I know he's looking forward to it. And after the week that he's had, and, well, same thing with me to a certain extent.
Yeah.
We need that kind of an escapism. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt.
Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing this weekend. Let's face it, there's plenty of it out there. We just talked about it. Every single series that we cover on a daily and weekly basis that is in season, in other words, not SRX because their season hasn't begun, they're all in action. A lot of racing to be able to watch today and tomorrow. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back again next week to recap it all and break down the news. Until then, have a great week. Thank you for listening to the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.